My son walked into my house without knocking and said, "Mom, the villa? I gave it to them." That was the first sentence out of his mouth. No greeting, no explanation, no hesitation. I stood in my living room holding a box of replacement bulbs for the Christmas lights. I put it down on the table so I could look at him clearly. He stepped aside, and Lila walked in behind him like this was her property inspection. Her parents came in next, slow and confident, scanning the walls, the furniture, and the floor. They didn't wait for an invitation. They didn't ask if they could enter. They behaved like people arriving at a home they already owned. Daniel pointed at them. "They'll be hosting Christmas there," he said. "It's settled. I told them it's theirs now." I looked at each person in the room. Lila held her purse against her hip, but her eyes were everywhere. Martha stepped toward the dining room and examined the chairs. Gerald looked at the ceiling as if deciding which part of the house needed renovation. None of them asked permission. All of them acted entitled. "You made that decision alone," I said. Daniel rolled his eyes. "Mom, don't start. It's Christmas. They need the villa, and it's just sitting there. They'll take good care of it." Martha smiled politely. "We came early to prepare the space." Lila added, "We want to make sure everything fits. My parents brought plans for the Christmas dinner." Plans? Dinner? In my house? Without asking. I watched Martha open a cabinet like she was checking inventory. Gerald tapped the support beam lightly with his knuckles. Lila stood at my bookshelf, touching the framed photos I kept there. Photos she had never respected, never asked about, never appreciated. I noticed every detail. Who moved where, who touched what, who assumed authority. "You're walking through a property that doesn't belong to you." Lila tilted her head slightly. "The villa is too big for one person, Patricia. It makes sense to use it for family gatherings." "For whose family?" She didn't answer. Daniel stepped closer. "Mom, stop making this dramatic. It's just property. We're trying to do something nice." You don't give away something you don't own, and you don't announce ownership in someone else's home. He exhaled sharply. They need the space. You don't. His confidence came from one assumption, that I would fold, stay quiet, or let the situation move forward simply because he declared it. For years, he relied on me financially. He relied on the fact that I rarely fought back. He relied on my silence. He forgot who owns what. Lila put her purse on my armchair. That alone told me how far they believed this had already gone. Her mother stood behind her, nodding in approval. Gerald walked into the hall as though taking measurements with his eyes. They weren't waiting for permission. They were waiting for me to step aside. Daniel raised his chin. "They're moving in items today. We'll start organizing by tomorrow." "You will not," I said. My tone was flat. No anger. No panic, no raised voice. Daniel hesitated for the first time. "Mom, don't do this. You made a statement, not a transfer of ownership." Lila crossed her arms. "Patricia, it's Christmas. We're trying to help the whole family celebrate together. You don't even stay at the villa most of the year." "That doesn't make it yours," I replied. Gerald returned from the hallway. "Patricia, we've already told our friends we'll be hosting the dinner. It would be embarrassing to cancel." I looked at him directly. "Your embarrassment is not my responsibility." He swallowed a breath, caught off guard by the bluntness. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "You're being unreasonable. I'm being factual. You entered my home without knocking. You walked through my property without permission. You told people they could take possession of a villa that legally belongs to me. And now you're asking me to agree with a decision you made alone." He didn't like hearing the events listed in a straight line. He never did. Facts were the one thing he couldn't argue with. "Mom, this could have been simple," he said. "Don't make it complicated." "I'm not the one who complicated it." I stepped closer and placed my hand on the back of the sofa, grounding the conversation in a physical, non-emotional position. "You're not listening," Daniel said. "I am," I replied. "You're just not making sense." Lila tightened her jaw. Her parents exchanged a small, uneasy glance. It was the first moment they understood that my silence wasn't compliance. Daniel raised his voice. "This is supposed to bring the families together." "You do not bring families together by taking what isn't yours," I said. Silence filled the room, a heavy, uncomfortable kind. But not for me. Daniel expected an argument. He expected shouting. He expected guilt. He expected emotional pressure. What he got was clarity. He lowered his hands. "So you're saying no?" "I'm saying the villa belongs to me, and no decision made without me holds any weight." Martha slowly closed the cabinet door she had opened earlier. Gerald stepped back from the hallway. Lila picked up her purse. Daniel stared at me, as if waiting for me to soften. I didn't. "This conversation is over," I said. I walked past him and adjusted a light plug on the floor, not to make a point, not to add drama, but because it was slightly out of place, and I preferred things in order. Daniel didn't know what to do with a mother who didn't raise her voice, didn't panic, and didn't give in. He would learn soon enough. Daniel didn't wait a full day before escalating. He came back the next morning with one clear goal. He wanted the key. Not a discussion, not an explanation, just the key. He walked through my door again without knocking. "Give me the villa key," he said. No greeting, no context, no respect. Lila stood right behind him, arms crossed, nodding like an advisor signaling her client to stay firm. Her parents followed slowly, keeping the same entitled posture they had the day before. I placed my coffee mug on the counter and looked at Daniel. "The key stays with me," I said. He blinked, surprised I didn't argue or ask a single question. He expected resistance he could push against, not clarity he couldn't twist. Lila moved first. "Patricia, don't drag this out. We're setting up the Christmas dinner. My parents already told everyone they're hosting at the villa. It's embarrassing to go back and change the plan." Martha stepped forward, voice soft but patronizing. "We'll take good care of it. You don't have to worry. We know you live alone, and managing a big property must be tiring." Gerald added, "This is easier for everyone." Everyone but me. I looked at Daniel. He didn't defend me. He didn't push back on their tone. He didn't correct anyone. He stood there as if this group had full authority to decide what happened to my property. "You made plans based on a lie." Lila's arms tightened. "It's not a lie. Daniel told us the villa was ours to use." "To use," I repeated. "Or to own." Silence. A short one. Sharp enough to expose the truth. Daniel stepped closer. "Mom, don't start playing word games. This is simple. You give me the key, we take over preparations, and you get a quiet holiday. That's what you said you wanted." "I said I wanted a quiet holiday. I did not say I wanted to hand over my property." His jaw tensed. "Why are you making this so difficult?" "Because you're asking for something that isn't yours." He sighed loudly, the kind of sigh meant to make me feel unreasonable. It didn't work. Lila scanned my living room, and then she said the line she had been holding back. "It's not like you need that villa. You're alone, Patricia. You don't host anyone. You don't use the place. What's the point of keeping it locked up?" Her tone wasn't concerned. It was dismissive, pure dismissal of my life, my routines, my choices, and my ownership. Daniel didn't stop her. He let her talk for him, like he always did. I said, "Your observation of my life doesn't entitle you to my property." Martha frowned. "We're trying to help the family gather. It's Christmas." Gerald added, "You should think about everyone, not just yourself." Daniel nodded at that, like it was a valid argument. "Mom, you're alone in that villa. It's just property." That sentence told me everything about his mindset. He didn't see value in history. He didn't see value in ownership. He only saw convenience for him. "It's just property," was his attempt to minimize what he wanted to take. I answered calmly, "It's property that belongs to me." Daniel's face tightened. "You're being stubborn. This could be easy." "It is easy. The key stays with me." His voice rose. "Stop talking like this is some legal hearing. It's Christmas. Just give me the key." "You made plans without permission. You entered the villa without permission. You invited people without permission. You announced ownership without permission. You don't get to demand the key." Lila's face flushed. "We already ordered catering, decorations, table settings. Everything is reserved. Patricia, canceling now would make us look unprepared." "You should have considered that before you planned something on a property that isn't yours." Daniel stepped even closer, pointing at me. "Mom, stop being difficult. This is family." "This is boundary," I replied. "You crossed it." He stared at me, waiting, expecting something to break, hoping I would crumble the way I used to when he was younger and louder. But nothing broke. Nothing moved. "This is unbelievable," he muttered. "You're alone in that house. You don't even use half the rooms. Let us enjoy it for once." "You enjoy what you own, not what you take." Martha folded her arms. "We didn't come here to argue." "But you came here expecting compliance." Gerald exhaled, frustrated. "Patricia, just hand the key to Daniel. We'll handle everything else." "No, you won't," Daniel snapped. "Why are you always like this? Why can't you just support your family for once?" I looked directly at him. "Support is not the same as surrender." He shook his head. "You're making this ugly, Mom." "No, I'm stating facts." Lila grabbed Daniel's arm. "We don't have time for this. Let's go. We'll come back later." Daniel didn't move. He stared at me another 5 seconds, as if still trying to find the angle that would make me give in. There wasn't one. I walked to the door, opened it, and held it wide. "This conversation is done." He didn't like being dismissed. He walked out with a glare. Lila followed with a tight jaw. Her parents left without looking at me. I closed the door behind them, firm, controlled, not angry, just finished. I stepped outside right after they left. Not to breathe, not to calm down. I stepped out because distance helps me see the problem without their noise in my house. The air was cold, but cold is simple. It doesn't argue or demand. It lets me think. My neighbor Carla was across the street walking her dog. She stopped when she saw me. "Everything all right, Patricia?" "Not yet," I said. Her face tightened with concern, but she didn't push further. People who know me understand I don't use short answers by accident. I walked halfway down my driveway and replayed every detail from the last 48 hours. I wasn't reviewing emotions, I was reviewing evidence. Their behavior laid out a clear pattern, and I wanted each piece in order. Daniel, reactive, careless, takes the path of least resistance, listens to whoever is loudest. Lila, confident, strategic, drives decisions, treats politeness like a weapon. Martha, quiet but entitled, acts like she deserves whatever Lila tells her she deserves. Gerald, opportunistic, avoids responsibility, follows the strongest voice in the room. None of them showed hesitation. None of them asked permission. None of them respected ownership. I walked back toward the house. The villa did not fall into Daniel's hands by accident. Lila guided him. Her parents reinforced it. Daniel delivered the message. The team was coordinated. That meant one thing: they would try again. People who take without consequences always return. Inside, I went to the hallway cabinet and pulled out an old photo album. I didn't open it for nostalgia. I opened it for documentation. My husband kept meticulous records because he believed any problem could be solved if the paperwork was clean. He labeled every renovation, every receipt, every warranty. Years later, I kept the same system because it worked. I opened the album to the page showing the villa's deed. Not to reminisce, but to confirm facts. The deed was intact, clear, direct, and legally unshakable. Everything in that house belonged to me. No joint owners, no secondary access, no disputes. I kept the album open on the counter and spoke clearly. No one uses my property as leverage. I said it as a statement, not a feeling. I grabbed my laptop from the dining table and opened the county property records. I checked the ownership line, the tax status, the access logs, the maintenance records, all active, all current, all mine. Then I opened a blank document and titled it Unauthorized Activity Log. I listed everything with timestamps. Entry without permission. False ownership claim. Trespass by additional parties. Attempt to obtain key by pressure. Plans scheduled on property without consent. I typed each event exactly as it happened. No adjectives, no interpretations, just actions and times. This document was not emotional. It was preparation. When I finished the list, I saved a backup file, then another. I stood by the window and looked at the street. Calm, still, predictable. Nothing about today had been predictable, and the fastest way to regain control was to gather information. I walked back to the kitchen and pulled open the same album. On the second page, there was a picture of my husband adjusting the first set of security cameras he installed. In the photograph, a younger Victor Tran stood beside him, handing him a tool. Victor, the one person who could turn information into action without creating collateral damage. I didn't call him yet. Strategy requires sequence. First the facts, then the plan, then the action. Jumping steps only helps the intruders. I grabbed a notebook from the drawer and wrote the next heading. Access vulnerabilities. Then I walked myself through the villa layout. Front door, back entry, garage door, side gate. Old cameras, old sensors. Panel box in the hallway. I wrote down what I needed to inspect tomorrow, not later, not next week, tomorrow. My phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. We'll stop by again later. Have the key ready. He still thought the situation was negotiable. He still believed forceful language could replace legal reality. I didn't reply. I noted the message under unauthorized demand number 2. I returned to the notebook and wrote the next category. Behavior predictions. Daniel will escalate. Lila will push him. Martha and Gerald will follow. They will attempt re-entry. They will expect me to be passive. They were wrong. I closed the notebook and placed it beside the laptop. Then I opened a new file labeled Action Plan. I typed 6 lines. Inspect villa in full. Review weak points. Confirm camera placement. Document everything with photos. Call Victor. Build deterrent strategy. Not revenge, not confrontation. Deterrence. A system that removes the audience for their entitlement. A system that makes them decide to leave without me ever being in the house. Control through structure, not emotion. I walked into the living room again. The spot where Lila put her purse yesterday was still slightly indented on the cushion. That wasn't sentiment, it was evidence. She already behaved like the villa was hers. People who claim space once will claim it again. I went back to the kitchen, opened the album one more time, and photographed the deed. I saved it in a secure folder. I printed a copy for my files. Then I placed the album back where it belonged. The phone buzzed again. Daniel. I didn't read it. I turned the phone face down. He had said enough for now. I walked to my office, turned on the desk lamp, and laid out the 3 documents: the unauthorized activity log, the action plan, and the printed deed. Clean, structured, ready. Tomorrow, the villa would be step 1. After that, I would contact Victor. Not for conflict, for control. Everything would move on my terms, not theirs. Daniel called before noon. He didn't wait for evening, didn't wait for a calmer moment, didn't wait for basic courtesy. The call came in loud, sharp, and aggressive, exactly how people behave when they know they've overstepped and want to force authority back into their hands. The phone rang. I saw his name. I answered without hesitation. He didn't allow a greeting. "How could you do that to us?" he shouted. "You embarrassed us!" His voice was so loud it cracked the speaker. I held the phone away from my ear for 1 second, then brought it back. "You entered the villa without permission. You caused the situation." He ignored the sentence entirely. "You made them feel unwelcome. My in-laws were shaken. Mom, do you know how that looked? You went into a property you don't own. You behaved like you owned it. You were corrected." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't match his tone. He hated that. In the background, I heard Lila's voice. She wasn't yelling, but her tone was sharp and decisive, the same tone she used to steer Daniel. "Tell her she exaggerated everything," Lila said. "Tell her the house is too big for her anyway." Daniel repeated it almost word for word, like a script being fed to him. "You're overreacting," he said. "That house is too big for you. It makes more sense for—" It's mine, I said. Silence. Not long. 1 second. Enough for him to register the impact. He tried again, louder. You can't talk to me like that. We were planning a family event. We were trying to do something nice and you ruined it. You should act like a mother and support your family. That was not support. It was trespassing. You should appreciate what we're trying to do for everyone, he shouted. Why can't you just be cooperative? I kept my voice flat. Because cooperation does not mean surrendering my property. He muttered something under his breath, something frustrated, something childish. Then he snapped back to full volume. You embarrassed her parents. Do you realize how awkward that was? They came in with plans. You shut everything down. They entered a private property. The consequences match their actions. You're impossible, he yelled. You're not calm enough to continue this conversation, I said. No, don't you hang up on me, he shouted. We are dealing with this right now. No, you're reacting. I'm dealing with facts. He hated that word, facts. Mom, stop. You're behaving like everything has to go your way. It does when it's my property. In the background, Lila's voice grew sharper. She's doing this on purpose. She wants control. Tell her she can't isolate herself and expect respect. Daniel repeated, You can't isolate yourself and expect everyone to respect your decisions. I expect respect because I earned it. I earned the villa. I maintain it. I pay for it. You made claims without authority. He exhaled loudly again. That exhale he uses to create guilt. You're lonely. You're making decisions based on fear, not logic. You need help. This behavior isn't normal. Projection won't help you. The line went silent for 3 long seconds. He had no script for that answer. He didn't know how to argue with a sentence that stripped away every emotional tactic he tried to use. Finally, he snapped, You're twisting everything. I'm repeating everything, I said, word for word. He breathed heavily, pacing. I could hear his footsteps. You know what? Fine. We'll handle this the hard way. Lila's parents are upset, and honestly, they should be. You embarrassed them. You embarrassed me. You made us look stupid, Mom. You made the promises. You did not consult me. You created the situation. The embarrassment is yours, not mine. Another small silence. He knew it was true. He refused to admit it. You think this is over? He said. It's not even close. We're not letting this go. That's your choice. It won't change ownership. He hated that answer more than any other. You don't understand, he shouted. We already told people. They'll ask questions. What are we supposed to say now? That you made plans you had no right to make, I said. You're unbelievable, Daniel barked. You want to destroy this family over a house? You tried to take the house. The family conflict is the result, not the cause. Lila's voice came through the phone again. Tell her we'll get legal help if we have to. Daniel repeated it instantly. We'll get legal help. We'll sue. We'll get the villa anyway. You can pursue any legal action you think is appropriate. The facts remain the same. We're serious, he yelled. So am I. He tried one more tactic, the guilt weapon. Do you want to lose your son over this? I'm not the one creating conditions. You're cold, he snapped. You're acting like a stranger. You entered my property like I was one. He had no answer. So he yelled again. This conversation is not over. It ended when you demanded something that isn't yours. I ended the call, no hesitation. A second later, the phone buzzed. Then again, message after message, long ones, short ones, angry ones. I didn't open a single one. I simply logged the time and wrote one line in my document. Daniel, escalation attempt, recorded. He could shout, he could threaten, he could blame. None of it changed ownership. None of it changed control. None of it changed what would happen next. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset, not because Daniel yelled. I stayed awake because planning requires clarity, and clarity is sharpest when the house is quiet. I turned on the small lamp in the dining room, opened my holiday planner, and began writing. First page, list of violations. Unauthorized entry. False claim of ownership. Attempts to pressure for key. In-laws entering without consent. Plans announced on property without approval. Aggressive phone confrontation. Demand for surrender of villa. I wrote each point plainly, no commentary, no emotion, just facts. Then I added a line. Rule: never negotiate from desperation. I underlined it once. Daniel's volume, Lila's confidence, Martha's polite entitlement, Gerald's passive approval. All of that was noise. Noise doesn't change property lines. Noise doesn't influence documents. But noise does expose their next move, and their next move would be predictable. People who feel entitled don't give up. They double down. I opened the villa's maintenance folder next. Old camera logs, system codes, notes my husband kept about the original setup. He always said one thing clearly: a good house protects itself if you prepare it right. He didn't mean it symbolically. He meant the wiring, the locks, the cameras, practical measures, real systems. The villa's current setup was outdated. Cameras from 8 years ago, sensors with limited range, a lock panel that could be bypassed with enough attempts. If Daniel wanted access, he'd try again, maybe with someone who knew how to force a lock. I wasn't going to wait for that. I flipped to a clean page in the planner and titled it Villa Vulnerabilities. Then I listed what I already knew. Entry doors, strong but outdated locks. Back door, needs reinforcement. Side gate latch, old. Camera system, analog, limited resolution. Motion sensors, still functional. Water system, adjustable. Lighting system, programmable. The villa wasn't defenseless. It was simply under-optimized. That could be fixed. My phone buzzed on the table. Another message from Daniel. I didn't open it. I wrote text attempt number 3, logged, and continued. I picked up the old system handbook and reviewed the notes my husband left behind. He always worked with people he trusted. One name appeared more than once: Victor Tran. Victor handled installations, rewiring, and major upgrades. He lived close to the villa. He did clean work. More importantly, he did quiet work. He didn't ask questions he didn't need answers to. I turned to a new page and wrote, Call Victor. Ask for deterrence setup. No damage, no contact. Only controlled response. I didn't want traps. I didn't want confrontation. I wanted Daniel and Lila to walk in, feel the pressure of being unwelcome, and walk out on their own with no argument left to make. My plan wasn't revenge. It was containment, order, boundary. I moved to the next page, strategic notes. Daniel responds to escalation, not logic. Lila directs conversations through confidence. In-laws follow group pressure. None of them verify legal facts before acting. They rely on emotional tactics. They misunderstand silence as weakness. I wrote one final line under the list. They will return. Prepare accordingly. I stood, walked to the kitchen, and made tea. Not to relax, to stay awake. Preparation requires full attention. Half-prepared people lose. Fully prepared people don't. I sat at the table again and opened the property deed. It was simple, clean, no joint signatures, no claims, no vulnerability. I placed it next to my laptop. Next, I pulled open my email and drafted a message to myself titled Villa Ownership Evidence Packet. I attached a scan of the deed, tax confirmations, the maintenance log, and photos from the renovation years. When the time came to involve Marcus, I wanted everything ready in one place. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. I didn't read it. I logged it. Text attempt number 4. Logged. Then I began drafting the checklist for tomorrow morning. Villa inspection plan. Arrive at 7:45 a.m. Inspect all doors. Photograph all existing lock conditions. Test current cameras. Review wiring panel. Document weak points. Prepare list for Victor. Set timeline for immediate installation. When planning is done correctly, emotion disappears. Strategy replaces it. Every step becomes a decision, not a reaction. I added one final section. Communication rules. No emotional responses. No debates. No explanations beyond facts. Log everything. Engage only when strategic. I closed the planner. Then I opened it again and added a single line at the bottom of the page. They will leave the villa on their own. That is the goal. I placed the planner, deed, and evidence folder into my bag. Then I turned off the lamp and checked the front door twice. Not because I was afraid, because tomorrow required precision, and precision starts with routine. My phone buzzed again. Daniel, still trying to regain the control he lost. I flipped it over and didn't read the message. Instead, I wrote one last note in my log. Emotional pressure attempt. Ignored. Then I set my alarm for early morning. The plan would start at the villa. Victor would handle the setup. I arrived at the villa at 7:45 a.m. sharp. I didn't stroll. I didn't hesitate. I parked, stepped out, and walked straight to the front door with my folder under my arm. The cold air didn't matter. What mattered was verifying every inch of the property before anyone else touched it again. The front door frame was intact. No scratch marks, no tampering. I took photos. The lock was old but strong. I wrote that down. The windows were secured. I checked each one. The side gate latch was loose. I added it to the list. I didn't wander. I documented. At 8:00 a.m., Victor pulled up. He stepped out with a toolbox in one hand and his laptop bag in the other. He nodded once. Victor never wasted time with long greetings. "Morning," he said. "Let's begin," I replied. He didn't ask for context. He knew I wouldn't call him unless the situation required precision. We walked inside. The house was quiet, undisturbed, exactly how it should stay. I handed him the printed checklist. "I want a deterrent system, not damage, not traps. They need to leave the house on their own." Victor scanned the list quickly. "What's the threshold?" he asked. "No harm, no property destruction, just pressure," I said. "Understood." He opened his laptop and connected to the old analog hub near the hallway panel. "These cameras are outdated," he said. "I can upgrade them fast." "Do it," he started typing. Lines of code filled the screen. Victor worked silently, always 3 steps ahead. He didn't need emotional context. He needed parameters. "Define the target group," he said. "Anyone except me," I answered. "Trigger based on unauthorized entry?" "Yes, and based on movement patterns that don't match mine." He nodded. "I'll set up a behavior profile." We walked through the villa room by room. I took notes. He measured angles. Living room, camera angle too wide, risk of blind spots. Victor adjusted it. Hallway, motion sensor functional but slow. Victor reprogrammed it. Kitchen, water valve accessible for controlled activation. Victor noted the timing sequence. Upstairs, lighting circuits old but programmable. Victor pulled out a small device to test the voltage. In less than 15 minutes, he had enough information to begin building the full system. We sat at the dining table while he wrote the structure. 6 modules, he said, each one independent. All activate in order unless overridden. List them, I said. He typed without pausing. His speed came from clarity, not rush. When he finished, he rotated the laptop toward me. These are the base settings. You can adjust volume, delay, range, and frequency. Everything is reversible. Nothing causes damage. Everything encourages retreat. Good. He initiated a trial run. Lights flickered for half a second. Shadow moved across the hallway. A low hum played through the vents. The kitchen faucet burst briefly. Footsteps echoed from the stairs. Then the voice came from the right side of the room. "You shouldn't be here." Not loud, not dramatic, just cold enough to unsettle. Victor looked at me. "Adjustments?" "Yes. Reduce voice volume by 15%. Increase lock delay by 3 seconds. Slow water burst by half a second." He entered the changes immediately. We ran the sequence again. Everything aligned perfectly, clean, controlled, predictable. Victor finished inputting the final modifications and closed the laptop. "I'll activate the full system on your schedule," he said. "Christmas Eve, 9:30 p.m., I replied. He nodded. "Done." I opened my folder and took out the payment envelope. I handed it to him without negotiation. "Thank you," I said. "Call me if you need the system expanded," he replied. He packed his tools, ran one final diagnostic, and left. When the door closed, the villa was no longer vulnerable. It was prepared, not with traps, not with aggression, with structure, with boundaries, with a system that spoke for me even when I wasn't there. Daniel wanted the villa. Lila wanted control. Her parents wanted comfort. They would soon discover the house was not theirs to take, no matter how loudly they demanded it. I locked the door, documented the inspection results, and walked back to my car. The system was ready. So was I. I drove back to my house in Boulder before noon. I didn't turn on music. I didn't replay conversations. I focused on the checklist in my mind. When I walked inside, I locked the door, set my bag on the table, and opened my laptop immediately. No breaks, no delay. The villa camera feed loaded in seconds. Front door, secure. Side gate, unchanged. Interior, still. Every image confirmed the same fact. The house was ready, and I was in full control. 5 minutes later, a message from Daniel appeared on my phone. "We'll arrive at 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Don't come." No greeting, no question. A command. I took a screenshot and saved it. Unauthorized directive number 1. I didn't reply. His belief in his own authority was the clearest sign they would walk straight into the system. They expected obedience. They expected compliance. They expected silence to mean surrender. They would learn what silence actually meant. I reopened Victor's dashboard on the screen and checked every module. Module 1, active. Module 2, tested. Module 3, aligned. Module 4, ready. Module 5, calibrated. Module 6, scheduled. All sequences were locked for Christmas Eve at 9:30 p.m. I scrolled through the parameters again. Light blink frequency correct. Shadow projection zones marked. Water triggers timed. Voice direction mapped to high footfall zones. Smart lock delay set. Everything was precise. No chaos, no guesswork. The house was prepared to do exactly what I needed it to do, make intruders uncomfortable enough to walk out without me saying a word. I switched to the outside camera. Snow was falling lightly in Boulder. The street was quiet, clean, predictable, the kind of calm that makes decisions easy. I stood and walked to the small Christmas tree in the corner. Not for sentiment, not for emotion, but to maintain the routine I set every December. I picked up one ornament, the plain silver one my husband preferred, and placed it on the tree. He liked order, he liked rules. He liked preparation. The villa had been his project. Now it was my responsibility, and I intended to manage it well. I returned to the laptop and opened my planner. Checklist, Christmas Eve execution, monitor feed, document entry, record behavior, activate partial sequence if needed, full sequence at 9:30 p.m., no direct confrontation, no entry to villa. Keep all logs for legal review. I added 2 more lines, stay off emotional ground, stay on factual ground. At 4:00 p.m. I made tea, sat down again, and watched the villa cameras one more time. Empty, silent, unclaimed, except legally, fully, and undeniably mine. Another message from Daniel came through. "We told my wife's family everything is ready. Don't ruin this." I saved it. Unauthorized pressure, attempt number 2. Still no reply. My silence once again was not emotional. It was strategic. Responding would only create noise. Noise was their tool, not mine. I checked each camera angle again. The living room had perfect coverage. The hallway view was sharp. The upstairs landing showed full range. The back door sensor read strong. Everything was aligned. At 6:00 p.m., the snow outside thickened. I closed the curtains. I didn't need mood. I needed privacy. I sat at the table with my laptop, planner, and phone lined up horizontally. 3 tools, 1 plan. I opened the planner and added a new section labeled Post-Entry Documentation. Time of arrival, method of entry, actions taken, items moved, statements made, sequence response, exit time. I prepared the page like preparing a courtroom file. Daniel would never admit wrongdoing willingly, but behavior documented cleanly never lies. At 7:30 p.m., I ran Victor's test sequence one more time. The lights blinked, the shadow moved, the hum rolled, the water spurted. The directional voice whispered from the right side of the audio channel, "You shouldn't be here." Cold, clear, controlled, perfect. I disabled the test and reset the system to standby. At 8:15 p.m., I leaned back and reviewed every file in my digital folder. Screenshots, logs, texts, photos of locks, notes from inspection, Victor's installation summary. Everything had a place. Everything had a timestamp. I added one final folder. Christmas Eve. Evidence. It would hold everything that happened tomorrow. At 9:00 p.m., I opened the system schedule panel and hovered over the activation setting. 9:30 p.m. Automatic start. I confirmed it. Then I closed the laptop, placed my hands on the table, and said one sentence quietly, directly, and without emotion. They'll learn tonight. I wasn't predicting. I wasn't hoping. I was stating. Because people who force their way into places they don't own eventually face the consequences of their own choices, especially when those choices meet preparation. I turned off the light, left the laptop on the table, and walked to my room. The house was quiet. The system was ready, and tomorrow the villa would speak for itself. At 5:07 p.m. on Christmas Eve, the SUV pulled into the villa driveway exactly the way I predicted, fast, confident, and without hesitation. I was watching through the live feed. Daniel stepped out first, carrying 2 large bags. Lila got out next, holding a box wrapped in red paper like she owned the place. Martha and Gerald climbed out slowly, bundled in coats, carrying containers of food as if they were arriving at their own holiday rental. There was no pause, no knock, no awareness of boundaries. Daniel walked straight to the front door, pulled out the key copy he made without permission, and unlocked the villa in one motion. He didn't check the surroundings. He didn't verify safety. He behaved like someone entering his own property, and that was the problem. I logged the exact time. Unauthorized entry number 3, 5:07 p.m. Inside the villa, they spread out immediately. Gerald stepped into the living room, hands on his hips, scanning the space. "Perfect size," he said. Martha nodded. "We can use this room for the kids' area when everyone arrives." I wrote their words down, direct quotes, useful later. Lila walked toward the Christmas tree. She took an ornament from her bag, bright blue with glitter, and hung it on the branch as if she had the right to decorate a house she didn't own. She didn't hesitate for a second. That told me everything I needed to know about her confidence. I said quietly to myself, "Strike 2, and typed it into the log. Daniel went straight to the thermostat. "Now it feels like a real home," he said, turning the heat up. He didn't ask. He didn't consider. He adjusted the temperature of a property that didn't belong to him. Martha placed a stack of presents on the wooden dining table, the one my husband built by hand. She didn't know the history. She didn't care. I wrote, "Strike 1, misuse of sentimental property." In the kitchen, Lila opened cabinets and moved dishes. "We'll need more space," she said. Gerald agreed. Martha unpacked food containers and started arranging them on the counter. They behaved like movers preparing for a long stay, not guests visiting for a holiday dinner. Every action reinforced the same thing: entitlement layered on entitlement. Daniel walked back into the living room with his arms spread wide. "Welcome to our villa," he declared. "Not my mother's villa, not the villa we're using. Our villa. Ownership claim, verbal, logged." I watched silently from my laptop. They weren't subtle. They weren't cautious. They didn't hide their intentions. That made my work easier. At 5:21 p.m., I activated the partial sequence Victor and I agreed on, the minimal version, just enough to unsettle, not enough to scare. The lights flickered once, a single sharp blink. Martha jumped. "What was that?" she asked. Daniel forced a laugh. "Old wiring. It's fine." He wasn't fine. His shoulders tensed, his jaw clenched. He tried to mask unease with confidence, but the camera caught the shift. Lila paused, looked around, then shook her head. "It's nothing. Keep setting up." The partial sequence ended. I didn't trigger anything else. The goal was simple: plant the first seed that they didn't have control here. Gerald walked to the back of the house. "This room could be the perfect guest area," he called. Martha responded, "And we'll put the extra tree in the corner. It needs lights." None of this surprised me. I documented every word. "We should bring the rest of the things from the car," Daniel said. They went back and forth from the SUV. 3 trips total. Trip 1, suitcases. Trip 2, blankets and personal items. Trip 3, extra decorations and what looked like a humidifier, not items for a simple holiday dinner, items for a takeover. Each entry, each movement, each bag, recorded. Lila then walked to the main bedroom hallway. "I want this one," she said casually. Martha smiled. "I thought so." Daniel didn't correct them. He didn't tell them it wasn't theirs. He didn't step in. He let them claim it. That was enough for me to confirm what I already knew. They saw the villa as a prize, not a place. They saw me as an obstacle, not the owner. At 5:38 p.m., Gerald attempted to adjust the settings on the old panel in the hallway. He pressed a few buttons. "It's locked out," he said. "Mom probably messed with it," Daniel replied. Incorrect. The system was locked because it belonged to me, not because it malfunctioned. Logged and time-stamped. Lila stepped into the living room again, phone in hand. She took photos. Angles of the tree, the fireplace, the dining area, the balcony. Then she typed something quickly, likely sending the pictures to her family group chat announcing their new holiday home. That didn't concern me. What mattered was that I collected definitive proof of their intentions. At 5:49 p.m., Daniel walked to the door and tested the lock again, a habit of someone preparing to claim routine control over a space. Then he said loudly, "This is perfect. We'll make this our Christmas tradition. Our tradition. Our space. Our villa." 3 claims in 1 sentence. I didn't respond. I didn't interrupt. I didn't need to. Everything I needed was on camera. I checked the clock. 1 hour until the full sequence tomorrow. They would leave long before then, but tonight was about observing, not intervening. Finally, at 6:03 p.m., I closed the laptop and wrote my final note of the evening. They are fully convinced the villa belongs to them. Tomorrow, the villa will correct that for me. At 10:08 p.m., I activated the full sequence. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I clicked one button on Victor's dashboard, and every module in the villa shifted from standby to active mode. The house was no longer passive. It was structured, timed, and ready. Daniel and his in-laws were still inside, exactly where they wanted to be, claiming what wasn't theirs. They had finished eating. They were cleaning up. They were settling in. They believed the villa had accepted them. They were wrong. Through the camera feed, I watched Daniel in the living room, checking his phone. Lila was folding blankets they brought, preparing to stay the night. Martha was arranging dishes. Gerald was taking a second look at the back bedroom, as if deciding where he'd sleep. At 10:09 p.m., Module 1 activated. The lights flickered, sharp, controlled, 1-second bursts. Not loud, not chaotic, just enough to break the illusion of comfort. Martha froze. "Did you see that?" she asked. Gerald looked up at the ceiling. "Electrical issue. Old wiring. Incorrect, but logged." Daniel tried brushing it off. His confidence, once inflated, was shrinking. The lights flickered again, slightly longer. Lila stood straighter this time. "Daniel, this isn't normal." He forced a smile. "It's an old system. Relax." But the way he stepped back told the truth. At 10:11 p.m., Module 2 activated. A soft hum rose through the vents, a low choir-like sound, not loud enough to be obvious but impossible to ignore. A sound that doesn't match any appliance, controlled, precise. Martha clutched her chest. "Do you hear that? Someone's—" She didn't finish the sentence. Lila grabbed Daniel's arm. "What is that? Daniel, what is that sound?" Daniel swallowed hard. "It's nothing. Stop overreacting." He was unsure. His voice betrayed him. At 10:12 p.m., Module 3 activated, the hallway shadow. A moving silhouette, projected with perfect timing, crossed from left to right on the wall, slow, deliberate, unmistakably human in shape. Martha screamed. "Someone's upstairs!" Gerald stepped back instantly. His bravado evaporated. Daniel rushed toward the stairs, but stopped halfway when the shadow crossed again, this time in the opposite direction. He froze. His confidence was gone. His voice dropped. His breathing changed. I recorded every reaction. At 10:13 p.m., Module 4 triggered. The kitchen faucet turned on for 2 seconds, then off. Martha shrieked again. Gerald jumped. Lila backed into the counter. "Daniel, stop saying this is normal!" Before he could answer, the upstairs shower turned on for a brief burst. Exact timing Victor programmed. Sharp, cold, mechanical. Martha covered her mouth. "Someone is in this house," Daniel finally snapped. "Nobody's here, okay? It's just... He had no explanation. I wrote, "Group panic level escalating." Documented. At 10:14 p.m., Module 5 activated. Footsteps, clear, measured, running down the upstairs hallway, then stopping abruptly. Martha screamed again, louder this time. Gerald turned pale. Lila pushed Daniel forward. "Go check. You said it's fine, so go check." "I'm not going up there," he said quietly. The first honest thing he'd said all night. At 10:15 p.m., Module 6 activated, the directional voice. The whisper came from 10 inches to Daniel's right side. "You shouldn't be here." Low, cold, direct. Daniel jumped back so hard he hit the wall. "Who said that? Who said that?" Lila grabbed his arm. Martha latched onto Gerald. All 4 of them backed toward the front door in a single cluster. Then the voice came again, this time behind Daniel. "This is not yours to change." He froze. His eyes widened, his breath stopped, his face drained of color. He knew that sentence. He'd heard it from my husband years ago, the last time he tried to redecorate something without asking. Victor had used the recording I selected. It hit exactly where it needed to. Daniel finally broke. "We're leaving! We're leaving now!" He ran to the door. But the smart lock delay protocol triggered exactly as planned. 30 seconds of resistance. The door wouldn't open. Martha screamed again. Gerald pulled at the handle. Lila started crying. Daniel's voice cracked. "Open! Open!" The delay was deliberate, just long enough to convince them the house didn't want them there. On the screen, I watched panic turn into desperation, desperation turn into fear, fear turn into retreat. At 10:16 p.m., the lock released. Daniel practically fell out of the doorway. The others pushed out behind him. They sprinted to the SUV like people fleeing a fire. Martha tripped. Gerald grabbed her. Lila didn't look back once. Daniel kept screaming, "Get in the car! Get in!" They all crammed inside. Doors slammed. The SUV reversed in a violent arc. They sped down the driveway without checking for oncoming traffic. The villa, now silent, returned to standby mode. I wrote the final note of the night. Full sequence successful. Subjects evacuated voluntarily. 0 contact required. My hands were steady. My breathing was even. Everything went exactly as planned. Control wasn't loud. Control wasn't emotional. Control was preparation. They entered the villa believing it belonged to them. The villa itself corrected the mistake. Daniel called at 7:30 a.m. on Christmas morning. He didn't wait. He didn't think. He didn't breathe long enough to regain control. The call came in with the same energy he left the villa with, fear covered by anger. I answered on the second ring. His voice exploded through the speaker. "You traumatized them." No greeting, no pause, no acknowledgement that he entered the villa illegally. "You entered without permission. You weren't invited." He ignored it, exactly as expected. "The lights went crazy. The house was shaking. There were voices. What did you do?" "You triggered a response system by entering a property you don't own," I replied. "That's not normal," he yelled. "Mom, you terrified everyone. Lila's parents barely slept." "You walked into a house that doesn't belong to you. You created the situation." He breathed hard into the phone, the same harsh sound he uses when he's cornered. "You could have warned us," he snapped. "You could have said something." "I did, many times." "You ignored it." In the background, I heard Lila. "Tell her she crossed a line. Tell her this is why people say she's difficult." Daniel repeated almost word for word. "You crossed a line, Mom. You can't keep doing this. You make things harder than they need to be." "You forced entry," I repeated. "You assumed authority that isn't yours. These are your choices." He didn't like hearing the word choices. People who rely on emotion instead of accountability never do. He raised his voice again. "You embarrassed us. Do you understand that? You made us look insane. Martha cried all night." "No one was harmed. No one was touched. You were simply told to leave." "That house talked," he shouted. "How is that normal? How is that even legal?" "Everything that happened is documented, including the fact that you were trespassing." "You're twisting this," Daniel said. "You're trying to make me the bad guy." "I'm repeating the facts, nothing more." He went silent for 2 seconds, long enough for him to think of a new angle. Then he used the one he always turns to when logic fails. "You're lonely," he said. "That's the real problem. You need help. You're making decisions out of whatever this is." "Projection won't help you," I said. He didn't speak for a moment. That line always lands because it cuts his entire tactic in half. He changed strategies again. "You're doing this because you're angry Lila and I have our own life." "No, I'm protecting what belongs to me." "You should support your family," he shouted, "not push everyone away." "I don't support theft. Family doesn't erase boundaries." He let out a frustrated noise, half groan, half growl. "This isn't over," Daniel said. "You can't treat us like this and expect everything to go back to normal." "It ended when you tried to give away my property," I said. "That villa should have been ours," he yelled. "We told people we'd spend the holidays there. Do you know how stupid we looked driving away like that?" "You created the narrative," I said. "You can correct it." He didn't want that answer. He wanted me to feel guilty. He wanted softness. He wanted surrender. He got none of it. Daniel tried another angle, blame paired with desperation. "You're pushing me away," he said. "You're going to lose your own son because you can't let go of a house." "You're responsible for your choices," I said. "Not me." "You're impossible," he shouted. "You're emotional," I replied. "I'm factual." That made him snap. "We'll sue," he yelled. "You think we won't? We'll take legal action." "You can pursue whatever action you think is appropriate. The facts will not change." He went quiet again. Not calm quiet, suppressed quiet. The kind where someone realizes threats won't work. "You think you've won?" he asked. "You think this makes you right?" "I think the property belongs to me, and I think entering it without permission creates consequences." He exhaled sharply, angry, defeated, directionless. "You ruined our Christmas," he said. "You ruined it when you tried to take something that wasn't yours," I answered. That was it. No yelling after that, no final insult, no last attempt at guilt. Just silence. Then he hung up. The phone vibrated seconds later, texts coming in one after another, long messages, short ones, voice notes, attempts to rewrite the story, attempts to shift blame, attempts to regain control. I didn't open any of them. I wrote a single line in my document. "Daniel, Christmas morning meltdown, recorded." Then I closed the folder. Everything I needed was already in motion. By noon on December 26th, the villa cameras alerted me to movement. Daniel's car pulled into the driveway fast, too fast for someone who believed he had legal authority. He got out wearing the same jacket from the night before. His steps were tense, rushed, not confident. A second man stepped out of the car, carrying a full locksmith toolbox. I logged it instantly. Unauthorized entry attempt number 2, with locksmith. Daniel walked the locksmith to the front door. The locksmith asked plainly, "Smart lock or mechanical?" "Just open it," Daniel snapped. That tone alone told me everything. He wasn't there to fix something. He was there to force access. The camera picked up every word. The locksmith crouched and examined the lock. He paused. He leaned closer. He tested the frame, then he shook his head. "This isn't a standard system," he said. "This is a remote-controlled smart module with a backup battery. I can't drill this without the owner code or server reset." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Are you saying you can't open it?" "I'm saying this isn't a normal lock," the locksmith replied. "Someone upgraded this. This system isn't cheap." Victor's work was already proving its value. Daniel pointed at the door aggressively. "So what? It's still my family's house. Just get it open." The locksmith stood up straight. "I don't know who told you that," he said calmly, "but from a technical standpoint, the system treats you as unauthorized." I documented the entire exchange. Daniel's voice cracked with frustration. "This is ridiculous. We were here 2 nights ago. We cooked in that kitchen." "Doesn't matter," the locksmith said. "This lock won't respond to you, and I'm not breaking a system that advanced without proper authorization. The liability is too high." Daniel ran his hands through his hair, pacing in front of the door. "So you're telling me this house is locked against its own family?" The locksmith didn't soften anything. "I'm telling you the lock is functioning exactly as designed. Whoever owns the property controls access. Direct, technical, useful." Daniel pulled out his phone. He called Lila immediately. She answered loud enough for the camera to pick her voice. "You left us humiliated. My mother cried all night. We can't even get inside now." Daniel responded, "The door won't open. The lock is messed up. She must have done something." Lila snapped back, "Fix it. We need to get our things." Daniel whispered sharply, "We don't have things here, Lila. We brought them in. We never unpacked." Silence on her end. He realized what he admitted. They had come with the intent to claim the villa, not visit it. I wrote, "Self-incrimination. Logged." The locksmith interrupted their argument. "If you want the system reset," he said, "I'd need the property owner here, and I'd need written authorization." Daniel glared at him. "You're not helping." The locksmith didn't flinch. "I'm not breaking the law for you, sir." Daniel's composure cracked. He kicked the bottom edge of the door, not hard enough to cause damage, but hard enough to show loss of control. The locksmith stepped back. "I'm done here," he said. "This house isn't yours, not from what I'm seeing." Daniel snapped, "You don't know anything about this family." The locksmith's answer was cold, factual, and perfect for my documentation. "I don't need to," he said. "The lock tells me everything." He packed his tools. Daniel didn't stop him. Before leaving, the locksmith glanced at Daniel one more time. "Get the owner," he said. "Otherwise, you're wasting your energy." Then he walked to his truck and drove away. Daniel stood alone in front of the locked door, breathing hard, frustrated, powerless. He stared at the villa as if waiting for something to change. Nothing did. He tried the handle again. It didn't move. He slammed his hand against the frame. Still nothing. Then the panic in him turned to desperation. He pressed his forehead against the door and whispered, "This can't be happening." But it was. I saved the footage and the audio file, then sent 3 screenshots and a short clip to Marcus. I added the notes. Entry attempt number 2. Locksmith involved. Locksmith confirms advanced system. Locksmith states Daniel is not recognized as authorized. Daniel expresses intent to force access. All recordings saved. Marcus responded within minutes. "Perfect. Keep logging everything." I closed the message and returned to the feed. Daniel was still standing there, still lost, still angry. Then something unexpected happened. The locksmith returned for one brief moment. He'd forgotten a small tool on the ground near the driveway. He picked it up, then looked directly at Daniel. "You sure this house is yours?" he asked. Daniel turned red. "Yes," he snapped. "It should be." "Should be isn't the same as is," the locksmith said. "Good luck." Nay? Then he left for good. I wrote the final line of the segment. His certainty cracked today. The truth is starting to reach him. Then I shut the laptop. Everything was unfolding on schedule. Daniel and Lila showed up at my house at 8:14 p.m. on December 26th. No warning, no courtesy, no pause. The doorbell rang twice, hard, fast, impatient. the kind of ringing people use when they think they're owed something. I looked through the peephole. Daniel stood in front, jaw tight, eyes red from lack of sleep or too much anger. Lila stood a step behind him, arms wrapped around herself. Not from cold, but from fear she didn't want to admit. She kept glancing at the driveway, like she expected the villa's system to follow her here. I opened the door. Not wide, just enough. Daniel pushed inside without waiting. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't step back. "You're already inside," I said. "Say what you came to say." Lila entered slowly, staying near the wall as if distance would protect her. Daniel paced once, then snapped, "You terrorized us." I didn't blink. "You entered a property without permission." He pointed at me sharply. "Don't start with your lines. You know what happened. That house went insane." "No," I said. "It responded." Lila's voice cracked. "You made my parents cry. They thought someone was in the house. They thought—" Her voice broke before she finished. "They walked into a private property uninvited," I said. "Cause and effect." Daniel turned on me again. "You set traps. You planned this. What kind of mother does that?" "A mother who documents everything," I said. "A mother protecting what belongs to her." He actually laughed. One sharp, humorless sound. "You think that helps you? You think being cold makes you right?" "I think facts make me right," I said. That sentence always hit him harder than yelling ever could. He stepped closer, lowering his voice as though intimidation would work better up close. "You humiliated us. You embarrassed her family. You made us look stupid." "You acted without authority," I said. "Embarrassment was a consequence of your choices." Lila's eyes filled with frustration. "You could have handled it differently." "You could have asked permission," I said. Daniel's voice rose again. "You're impossible." "You're emotional," I replied. "I'm consistent," Lila finally snapped. "You're punishing us. That's what this is. You're angry we're building our life and you're losing control." "You tried to take a villa that isn't yours," I said. "Control has nothing to do with it." Daniel pointed toward the door. "You didn't have to go this far." "Boundary enforcement feels extreme only to the people who crossed it," I said. He didn't like that. "What about family?" he asked. "Doesn't that matter to you? Doesn't Christmas matter?" "Family doesn't erase property lines," I said, "and Christmas doesn't excuse trespassing." Daniel's temper cracked fully then. He shouted, "Give us the villa or we're done!" Lila flinched at his volume. "No holidays," Daniel continued. "No dinners, no visits, no grandchildren for you, nothing. You want that? Because that's where this is going." I held his stare. "Threat noted." He waited, expecting guilt, fear, negotiation. "Not effective," I added. That crushed whatever strategy he thought he had. Lila looked at him, shocked. "She's not backing down," she whispered. Daniel rubbed his face, frustrated and lost. "You don't understand what you're doing. You're pushing us out." "You walked out when you tried to take the villa," I said. "That was your choice." He pointed at the floor like he needed ground to stand on. "We'll sue." "You can pursue any legal action you think is appropriate," I said. "The outcome won't change." He blinked, thrown off by the simplicity of the answer. Anger, guilt, fear, threats, none of it worked. His whole playbook was useless. Lila stepped forward finally. "You made us look like criminals." "You behaved like criminals," I said. She froze. Daniel swallowed hard. Then Lila's voice dropped. "My parents are shaken. They think something is wrong with that house." "Nothing is wrong with the house," I said. "It simply belongs to me." Daniel stepped back like he needed distance from the conversation. "You're unbelievable," he said quietly. "You think you're teaching us some kind of lesson?" "I'm protecting what's mine," I repeated. He stopped pacing. He looked at me with a mix of anger, exhaustion, and a fear he couldn't hide. "You don't care if you lose me, do you?" "I care about actions," I said. "Yours don't match ownership, respect, or responsibility." That landed deeper than anything else. Daniel let out a long, uneven breath. "We came here to fix this," he said, "but you're not giving an inch." "You came here to force a result," I said. "That's not fixing anything." Lila grabbed his arm. "This isn't working," she whispered. "Let's go." Daniel hesitated. He wanted one last attempt, one last push. "You can stop all of this right now," he said. "Just give us the villa." "No," I said. Just one word. Simple. Final. Unshakable. He didn't shout again. He didn't threaten again. He walked to the door, pulled it open too hard, and then slammed it behind him. Lila followed without looking back. I closed the door calmly and walked to my desk. I opened my folder and added the final line. Verbal threat number 4. Documented. Emotional manipulation attempt. Neutralized. Both left voluntarily. Then I prepared the file for Marcus. Everything was ready for the legal strike. I arrived at Marcus's office the next morning at 9:02 a.m. with the full evidence file in my bag. I didn't waste time sitting in the lobby. The receptionist recognized me, nodded once, and opened the door to his office without asking questions. Marcus stood when I walked in. "You brought everything?" I placed the folder on his desk. Videos, screenshots, timestamps, audio, written logs, entry attempts, threats, locksmith statements, all organized. He opened the folder, skimmed the first page, and nodded. "This is clean, very clean, enough to shut down every direction they might try." I sat across from him. "What's the most efficient option?" He pulled out a legal pad and wrote 3 short lines. Clean, direct. Option A, irrevocable trust. You lose some flexibility. Option B, donor trust. More control but tied to terms. Option C, transfer ownership entirely to a nonprofit. Final, permanent, legally airtight. I looked at the page. C. He raised an eyebrow. "You're sure?" "Yes," I said. "I don't want the villa debated. I want it settled." He nodded. "The Veteran Support Center would accept it immediately. They've worked with your husband before. There's a clear connection." "That's why I chose it," I said. Marcus opened a fresh file and began writing. "I'll prepare the conveyance deed, donation contract, and access clauses. You will retain lifetime entry rights. They will take full ownership and assume property protection." "Good," I said. He typed quickly. Precise motions, no hesitation. Each paper he prepared was another nail sealing the outcome Daniel and Lila couldn't escape. After 10 minutes, Marcus turned the monitor toward me. "These are the documents. Read them." I read every line. No poetic language, no openings for dispute, no room for reinterpretation, only facts, signatures, and legal boundaries. "I accept," I said. Marcus printed everything, a stack of documents half an inch thick. He handed me a pen. "Sign here, and here, and here." I signed each page with a steady hand. No shaking, no doubt, no second thoughts. When the last signature landed on the final line, Marcus collected the pages, placed them in a sealed envelope, and stood. "I'll file this at the county clerk's office, today." "How long?" I asked. 24 hours or less," he said. "Once it posts, the villa is legally out of Daniel's reach forever. He can't challenge it. He can't claim it. He can't reverse it." "Good," I said. "That's the point." Marcus gave a single approving nod. "You planned this well. They won't know what hit them." "I'm not concerned with surprise," I said. "I'm concerned with finality." By noon, Marcus was gone with the documents. I returned home and monitored the villa cameras. The property was silent, clean, still. 24 hours later, at 10:17 a.m., Marcus called. "It's done," he said. "County clerk recorded the transfer. The villa now belongs to the Veteran Support Center. The deed is public. Anyone searching the records will see it." "Thank you," I said. "And for the record," Marcus added, "this is the cleanest resolution I've handled in months. You built an airtight case." That was the intention. We hung up. 5 minutes later, the news reached Daniel. Not from me, but from social media. The Veteran Support Center had posted a photo on their official account. "Thank you, Patricia Hale, for your generous donation. This villa will serve veterans and their families for years to come. The phone rang immediately. Daniel. I answered. His voice was sharp, panicked, unsteady. You gave it away? Yes, I said, and it's final. You gave my house to strangers? He yelled. It was never your house, I said. He gasped like the air had been knocked out of him. You could have talked to me. You could have explained. You weren't listening, I said. You never intended to. You think this is okay? He continued. You think this fixes anything? This resolves ownership, I said. Permanently. Daniel's tone cracked. You didn't even warn me. You gave the villa away without warning, I replied. I followed your example. That silenced him for a full 2 seconds. Then he exploded again. You gave it to veterans? People you don't even know? I gave it to people who respect property, I said. He didn't know how to argue with that. He tried anyway. This isn't fair. This isn't... Mom, this is insane. No, I said. This is legal. Daniel's breath grew uneven. So that's it? You're done with me because of one mistake? You tried to take a home that wasn't yours, I said. Not one mistake, repeated decisions. He didn't deny it. He couldn't. Finally, he said, I can't believe you did this. I can, I said. Silence. Then he asked quietly, What am I supposed to tell people? The truth, I said. You made promises you had no right to make. He inhaled sharply, hurt, angry, defeated. This isn't over, he said. It is, I replied. Legal ownership is not a debate. He hung up. 1 week later, the Veterans Support Center asked me to meet them at the villa. The transfer was complete. The paperwork had cleared. The property was formally theirs. They wanted to walk through the house, check the systems, and prepare it for their program. I arrived at the villa at 9:00 a.m. No nostalgia, no emotion. My role was simple: verify the turnover and close the file. 2 staff members greeted me, then walked through each room with a clipboard. They took notes on repairs, upgrades, and accessibility adjustments. Everything was procedural, clean, professional. Dana Ortiz arrived 10 minutes later. She introduced herself with a firm handshake. Thank you for meeting us, she said. We want to make sure the villa is ready. Walkthrough is all I need, I replied. We moved through the living room first. The ornaments the intruders brought were gone. The clutter was gone. The space looked neutral again, correct, orderly, functional. Dana inspected the wiring panel. We'll remove the deterrent system, she said. We'll return the equipment to your technician. Victor will pick it up, I said. Good, she nodded. The upstairs was quiet. The kitchen was clean. The lock worked properly. Every room was exactly as it needed to be. Halfway through the walkthrough, I saw movement on the driveway camera feed Dana carried on her tablet. A car had pulled in. Daniel. Alone. No Lila, no in-laws, no backup, just Daniel. Dana looked at me. Should I ask him to wait outside? No, I said. Let him come. He walked to the front door slowly. No rush, no anger, no entitlement. He knocked once. Soft, controlled, nothing like the pounding from days before. Dana opened the door. He saw me. His posture shifted immediately. Mom, he said quietly, can we talk? I looked at Dana. Give us a few minutes. She nodded and stepped into the kitchen. Daniel stayed near the entryway, hands in his pockets, shoulders lowered. No accusations. No demands, no shouting. A very different man from the one who tried to force the door open with a locksmith. What do you need? I asked. He swallowed before speaking. I messed up. Simple, direct, not loud, not dramatic. For the first time, honest. I didn't respond. I waited. He continued. I pushed too hard. I let Lila push me harder. I tried to prove something I wasn't ready to prove, and I tried to take something that wasn't mine. Still, I waited. He needed to say it fully, without interruptions, without emotional compensation. I thought giving the villa to her family would make me look strong, like I could provide, like I was doing something big. He shook his head. But that wasn't strength. That was stupidity. He paused again. I should have asked. I should have respected the place. I should have respected you. I didn't soften my expression. I didn't step toward him. I didn't change my tone. Responsibility isn't about taking, I said. It's about protecting. He nodded slowly. I know. I see that now. Another pause. He looked around the villa, the house he tried to claim, control, and convert into a gift he had no right to give. It's gone, he said. The center owns it. I checked the records. Yes, I said. It hurt to see that, he admitted. But I get it. I forced this outcome. I'm not here to argue. Good, I said. He sighed, not dramatically, just tired. I need time to fix this. I can't undo what happened, but I don't want things to stay like this. I want to come back as your son, not as someone trying to take what isn't his. He looked straight at me. I don't expect forgiveness today. I know better than that. I held his stare. You'll need consistency, I said, not promises. He nodded again, slow, steady, accepting the terms. I can do that, he said. No tears, no hug, no dramatic reconciliation, just clarity. He turned toward the door. I'll let you finish your work. He walked out quietly. No slammed doors, no raised voice, no anger. Before getting into his car, he paused for about 5 seconds and looked back at the villa. Not with desire, not with resentment, but with understanding. Then he drove away. Dana returned to the living room. You okay? She asked. I'm fine, I said. Let's finish. We completed the walkthrough. She signed the confirmation papers. I handed her the copy of the documentation and stepped onto the villa's front porch one last time. The driveway was empty. The air was cold. The house was calm. I looked at the property, not with nostalgia, not with attachment, but with certainty. This is the right place for the right people, I said quietly. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe to the channel and join me for the next one. Your support means more than you know. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your kindness. I'll see you in the next story. Take care and stay safe until then.